Okay, we've got the deer shoulder here. It's a typical deer shoulder. I've let it sit in the refrigerator for 2 days, age a little bit. I don't like to keep the meat for much more than 3 days though, without freezing it. It's not really necessary to age venison very long. It's not marbled like beef, so aging it does very little good in regards to flavor. But to process this, we're going to go ahead and cut off the neck meat that we took off with the shoulder, and you're going to find it comes apart fairly readily. There'll always be this little flap right here, and you can go ahead and take that off too, and just kind of make a little pile up here of your loose meat. Go ahead and trim this excess fat off, and you want to discard all this fat because venison fat is very distasteful. It's really a pretty simple process to go through. And get rid of this little piece here. Not a lot to it. Now there's this bone that runs up right through the middle here of the shoulder. You cut down on either side of that and scrape that meat right off the scapula. And go ahead and put that in the pile. This other side here, some people use this as a shoulder roast, and that's perfectly fine. You cut down in here like a little V and take out this big chunk of meat right here. Open that up. If the animal was big enough, that can make a nice shoulder roast right here. I'm going to go ahead and put it with the meat pile and cut the rest of it up. Okay, I'm cutting right along this bone again, and then kind of flip your knife sideways like this, and you can go ahead and get that tendon out of the way. Go ahead and just scrape that right off the other side of the scapula. Trying to get all the meat off. You can scrape a little bit more with your knife and get that done. Once you've got that pretty much taken care of, flip it over, do the back side just like that. And basically what we're doing is trying to get all the meat off the bone here. Okay, I like to get as much meat as is humanly possible off these front shoulders. Deer can be hard to come by sometimes, and you never know when the next one's gonna show up at. You never know if there's a next one coming this season. So I like to get as much as possible off of every animal. Honors the animal. Once we've gotten the shoulder as clean as we can, we're going to turn our attention to the shank here. And this is all good meat. A lot of guys throw this away, and there's, even on a small deer, you got a couple pounds of meat here. You can just go ahead and take that muscle group off the shank, right down here at the end, and shave this lower part of the bone off too. You get a couple more pounds of meat off of it. Now, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and turn your attention to the meat. Trim away all this fat here. You can see little fat, little pieces of fat and membrane. Go ahead and cut all that stuff away. And the chunks of meat you're left with, put them in a trimming bowl, discarding the scrap and the fat, all the little membrane and sinew and fat. Shave away as much of that as you possibly can. And discard it. Also, keep in mind, if you did shoot through the shoulder with projectile of any type, there's liable to be damage to the meat. If there's bloodshot meat, go ahead and trim that away. If there's damage, bone blown back up in the meat, or bloodshot stuff, that's going to add a bad flavor to anything you use your trimmings for. So get rid of that as well. And when you're finished, you'll have a bone that's free of meat and a bowl of trimmings that are free of fat and tendons. Now, as you work with the rest of the deer, turn your attention to the other shoulder. You're going to trim down the back straps, bone at the hindquarters. You're going to produce bits and pieces and scraps. Trim those down and add those to your trimming bowl too. You can freeze these trimmings and use them for just about anything. You can use them for jerky. You can make summer sausage. If you're feeling ambitious, you can make fresh Italian sausage for the grill. I've made those before. They are really good. And if y'all are interested in seeing some videos on how to do that kind of process, and let us know. If we collect enough deer this year, we'll be happy to film that for you. But what we use most of our trimmings for is grinding venison burger. Now, if you're interested in learning how to process your deer into burger, be sure to check out our video, How to Grind Deer Burger, at the link provided here. We'll see you again soon at CamoChairProductions.com.